On January 2nd, 2025, Jimmy Butler will request a trade from the Miami Heat. On the surface, a puzzling move for what seemed to be a perfect fit. In the 4 seasons that Butler was healthy for the Heat, they would make it to the finals in 2 of them and was 1 3-pointer away from a third. But for people who followed Jimmy Butler through his career, in a way this almost seemed destined. To begin the story, we must go all the way back to 2003. The year 2003 in the NBA will be synonymous with one of the greatest drafts in NBA history, introducing in NBA legends like Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. Down in Houston, a man by the name of Tom Thibodeau will be hired as the Rockets' assistant coach. The head coach at the time, Jeff Van Gundy. Now just 30 minutes away from Houston is a small town by the name of Tomball, a population at the time of around 10,000. In Tomball lives a 13-year-old Jimmy Butler, who this year, at the age of 13, will be kicked out of his house by his own mother.
My mom kicked me out of my house, to tell the truth, and I bounced in and out of guys' houses in high school.
At just 13 years old, Butler would be left without a home. He would spend the next 4 years rotating between different friends' houses until 4 years later when his friend Jordan Leslie would introduce Butler to his own family.
I'd just be like, oh, just one more night. It just kind of developed into a week and then a month.
He stayed upstairs and would come downstairs, and so I guess he thought if he wasn't seen, no one would know he was there.
I felt like if nobody knew I was there, they couldn't get tired of it.
Butler finally found a stable home. But more importantly, he found a family who accepted him for who he is.
I feel like family is who you love, who you always want to be around, and I have nothing against anybody else, but I know whenever you ask me my family, you'll get those names, you'll get those people.
In the years that followed, Jimmy Butler would work his way up to being a basketball star, ultimately earning himself an athletic scholarship at Marquette University in 2008. Fast forward now to the 2010 NBA offseason, the Bulls would hire Tom Thibodeau as their next head coach.
We are very, very excited to introduce Tom Thibodeau as our head basketball coach today.
In his rookie season as a coach, Thibodeau would be named the NBA Coach of the Year, tying the record for the most wins by a rookie coach at 62 wins. Subsequently, his star player Derrick Rose will be named the league's MVP. That playoffs, the Bulls will lose to the Heat in 5 games, where the Bulls will blow a 12-point lead in the final minutes of Game 5. But not to worry, as the Chicago Bulls will have the 30th pick in the NBA draft. Although not a good spot to find talent usually, the Bulls managed to.
With the 30th pick in the 2011 draft, the Chicago Bulls select Jimmy Butler from Marquette University.
The following season, the Bulls would again win the most regular season games in the league and were looking to avenge for what happened the season prior. However, in Game 1 of the playoffs, this happened.
Rose came down bad on his left foot. See him holding onto his knee.
Derrick Rose would suffer a torn ACL, and the Bulls would lose the series 4-2. Many in the media criticized Tibbs for keeping Rose in the game, but I think it's important to point out that in literally the last playoff game that they've played, they blew a similar lead. The following season, with Derrick Rose out for the entire year, that opened up more guard minutes. Butler would be the beneficiary, playing all 82 games for the only time in his career, solidifying himself as a two-way wing in the league. The Bulls would finish the season 45-37, good for the 5th seed. They would make a playoffs run all the way to the second round, and despite giving the Heat one of the best games of the playoffs, the Bulls would ultimately lose the series in 5.
Butler shoots to tie. Playoff.
The following season, Derrick Rose would officially return from his ACL injury for a month before tearing his meniscus again, out for the season for his 2nd straight year. Despite this loss, the Bulls would again overachieve, this time finishing 4th in the conference before losing to the Wizards in the first round. Tibbs, after winning Coach of the Year in his rookie season, would finish runner-up his 2nd season and 3rd in voting his 3rd season. But despite this achievement, the tension between the front office and Tibbs is beginning to heat up. You see, in the final game of the 2014 regular season, the Bulls were matched up with the Charlotte Bobcats. Now, a loss would guarantee the Bulls to finish 4th instead of 3rd, avoiding the 2nd-seeded Miami Heat until the conference finals. But Tibbs, in typical Tibbs fashion, decided not to tank the game, pushing all his key players to play over 40 minutes, all to lose the game anyway in overtime. Amongst those in the crowd was Bulls GM Gar Forman, who was already wary of the way Tibbs had managed playing time, especially compared to how other teams like the Spurs have begun to utilize load management to prevent injuries. And they would be vindicated in this belief when Joakim Noah would need surgery on his knee right after the season ended. The following season would see the tension between Tibbs and the front office reach its boiling point. How bad did it get? Just listen to this defense by Jeff Van Gundy on a national broadcast.
He has done such a good job here. First 2 years, had the best record in the league. It's almost criminal in basketball terms what he's having to endure with some of the fringe media. The team has publicly supported their coach while privately, oftentimes undermining that same person.
This passionate defense from Van Gundy ultimately led Tibbs to even deeper trouble with the front office. As we touched on earlier, Tibbs used to be an assistant for Van Gundy, but despite the turmoil, the Bulls were thriving on the court, with Jimmy Butler taking another leap, the addition of Pau Gasol being a seamless fit, and with Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose both bouncing back from surgery, the Chicago Bulls would finish the season 3rd in the East. They would be matched up with none other than LeBron James again in the 2nd round of the playoffs. However, this time, injury luck was on the Bulls' side.
And this is unusual for Tom Thibodeau. He has his full lineup intact. For the Cavaliers, a different story. Without 2 of their 5 starters.
The Bulls were poised to finally beat LeBron, and after winning Game 1, the results seemed to be trending that direction. Now, before the Last Dance documentary, there was the Last Stand article by Woj released after the Game 1 win. In the article, Woj revealed that Tibbs knew that this was likely his last season with the Bulls. Now get this, the tension has gotten so bad and toxic that the coaching staff began to wonder if their offices were being bugged. Now back to this series, the Cavs would bounce back to win Game 2 before Derrick Rose would hit this game winner in Game 3.
Trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer!
And LeBron James would respond with his own in Game 4.
James for the win! It's gone! LeBron James at the buzzer!
The Cavaliers would follow that up by winning the next 2 games, finishing off the Bulls in 6. That offseason, on May 28, 2015, the Chicago Bulls would make the controversial but also predictable move of firing Tom Thibodeau.
Obviously, Tom won a lot of games here, and Tom did a nice job for us and made a contribution to the success that we've had.
3 days later, Bulls would hire Fred Hoiberg as their new head coach. The Bulls would also re-sign Jimmy Butler to a 5-year, $90 million contract, locking him in as the next face of the franchise. Now on paper, the Bulls are scarier than ever, being able to build upon the success of the previous season, but reality will be quite different. With power struggles between the young Butler and the old stars, the Chicago Bulls would miss the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. That offseason, the Chicago Bulls would pick a lane. They would move on from Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah. No more questions. Jimmy Butler is now the new face of the franchise. At the same time, Tom Thibodeau, after a year-long sabbatical, will be hired as the president of basketball operations and the coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. His first move? To try and reunite with Jimmy Butler. The Bulls, however, did not bite. Instead, the Bulls would supplement Butler with veteran players like Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, who had conveniently fell into the Bulls' lap after Wade's relationship with Pat Riley had gone sour after not receiving the contract extension he desired. However, just like the previous season, the Chicago Bulls would underachieve again, and while Butler and Wade developed a friendship, they would seemingly blame the rest of the team for every shortcoming.
This is something that internally right now really needs to be dealt with. This is something that's pretty inflammatory toward the rest of the guys on that roster.
Rajon Rondo would take the side of the youngsters and post this caption on Instagram: "My vets would never go to the media. They would come to the team." Despite the drama, the Bulls would stumble into the playoffs as an 8th seed and would take a commanding 2-0 lead on the Celtics, before an injury to Rondo would end their playoff hopes. On June 22, 2017, Tom Thibodeau would call up the Bulls again to try and trade for Jimmy Butler. This time, the Bulls agreed. By trading away Jimmy Butler, the Bulls set off the first domino in what would seemingly become a yearly tradition, leading to some of the wildest stories that you'll have to see to believe. But before we get to that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Alright, let's talk about something that we have to deal with every single day: underwear. Honestly, I've had a fair share of complaints over the years. Finding the perfect fit just feels impossible. The waistbands either dig in, the fabric feels cheap, or it just doesn't hold up after a few washes. But then, I found Skims. When I heard they were making underwear for men, I was genuinely intrigued. My girlfriend's been raving about Skims for so long, so when Skims reached out, I was very, very happy. My favorite so far, definitely the Skims cotton 5-inch boxer briefs. The fabric is next level soft, but it's also durable. That's the thing that sets Skims apart from other brands. Not only do they feel good, but they stay good all day long. So, if you are ready to upgrade your underwear game, click the link in the description to shop Skims Men's. And after you place your order, make sure to let them know that I sent you. Select YouTube in the survey and click my channel from the drop-down menu. Now, back to the video. Jimmy Butler was furious to say the least. The home that he had thought he had found has now let him go.
All that means nothing. You know what I've learned? Facing the team, eventually you're going to see the back of his head as he's leaving town. So no thanks.
But in a sense, while Jimmy Butler did leave his home, he did reunite with his last family, as Butler would be reunited with Tom Thibodeau, Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson, and Luol Deng, earning the Timberwolves the nickname the Timber Bulls. But just like previous seasons, the tension in the locker room would rise again. The age-old struggle between the young and the old. The difference this time, Jimmy Butler isn't part of the young core anymore. This time he's on the other side, as the Timberwolves' Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins were the team's priority.
About game 4, Jimmy said, "Fuck this shit, T. This ain't gonna work." I said, "What's wrong?" He's like, I thought they was something else. They ain't.
Again, like the pattern with most Tibbs teams, the Timberwolves would make the playoffs for the first time in 14 years, albeit as an 8th seed, losing to the Houston Rockets in 5 games. That offseason, the Timberwolves would attempt to re-sign Jimmy Butler, offering the largest amount the team could give him, a 4-year, $110 million extension. Jimmy Butler, however, would reject the offer, and while it's true that the Timberwolves offered Jimmy Butler the largest number they could, it's not the largest number that Jimmy could receive, which in that case would be 5 years, $190 million, meaning that if the Wolves were to clear cap space, trim their roster to only their starters and minimum contracts, the Wolves would have been able to offer Butler the amount he desired.
Young guys got paid first.
Yeah.
They was trying to give Jimmy some bread, but it wasn't enough money. It wasn't that kind of money. Jimmy was basically like, yo, show me like I'm the alpha, show me I'm the guy.
To complicate the situation further, Wolves' young star Karl Anthony Towns would also tell management that he couldn't coexist with Jimmy Butler. The Wolves ultimately chose not to gut their roster, and Butler subsequently demanded a trade from the Wolves.
He listed the Clippers as his top desired destination, also mentioned the Knicks and the Nets. All of those are teams that have money.
Tom Thibodeau, however, called Jimmy's bluff, sitting him down shortly before the season to tell him that they would keep Butler if no good deals present itself. But Jimmy doubled down and was skeptical of Tibbs' efforts to trade him.
He wants to be gone. He believes that the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing everything they can to sabotage the opportunity for him to get out of Minnesota.
Tom Thibodeau doesn't want to trade Jimmy Butler. He does not want to trade him. He has not wanted to do a deal.
Was this a man who was truly trying to trade Jimmy? Or was he a hopeless romantic trying to right the wrongs of the past? Regardless, Butler would be held out of training camp as the team continued to monitor their options. However, everything would change on October 10th, 2018.
So we were at practice one day. Jimmy ain't came to no workout. So workout start in September, we don't see Jimmy. Nobody's talking to Jimmy. He comes 3 days after training camp start. Tibbs, he has his little thing he does. When he gets excited, his hands shake.
Tibbs start getting that shakes in there. He's like smiling, he got that little smile with that shit. So
Tibbs said, "We're going to scrimmage." Jimmy hop up. I'm playing. Tibbs' hand go crazy. He like, starters, Jeff, Jimmy, Wig, Taj, Cat. Jimmy said, I ain't playing with them. Jimmy said, I'm playing with them. He picked the Bad News Bears. It was there, no offense, but everybody in there, they wasn't gonna make the team.
I heard that he took the third stringers and he beat the starters.
Oh! Oh! Okay, that's a slap in the starter's face.
You haven't seen him throughout the offseason, and he takes third stringers and waxes your behind. How is that funny?
At one point in the scrimmage, sources says, Butler turned to GM Scott Layden and screamed, "You bleeping need me! You can't win without me!" Butler left teammates and coaches largely speechless. He dominated the gym in every way. Jimmy's back, said the source.
Jimmy ain't scored at all. He just stealing the ball and passing to people, getting assists, just playing the right way. But he like doing everything.
I was balling. He was passing a lot.
Time run out. They win. They beat us like 18-6.
I think they got a last second shot to go in.
Jimmy started talking to the GM. Everybody in the gym. Y'all better mother effing pay me. I'm like that. I'm like, he is nuts.
That you were loud, emotional, passionate, we like to say, targeting Coach Tom Thibodeau, teammates like Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, that you told GM Scott Layden, quote, "You effing need me." How would you describe what happened today?
A lot of it is true.
On November 10th, 2018, Tom Thibodeau finally lets it go. Jimmy Butler, on the final year of his contract, will be traded for the second year in a row. His new home, the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers were coming off their own drama, which I covered in this video, and would be searching for a new beginning after their failed pursuit of LeBron James. Now, after having locker room problems for 2 seasons straight, there was a developing notion now that Butler is a locker room cancer.
All you hear is sources say. You never hear a player say it. And I think if a player had a problem with anything, that they would. That's how I feel about the situation. And unless everybody in my past locker room was just that fake, I don't think that I was that big of a problem at all.
Coming off a season where the Sixers made a surprising push to the second round of the playoffs, Jimmy's arrival signaled a new big three that would hopefully push them over the hump. The Sixers would also make another all-in move at the deadline, trading for Tobias Harris, a move that propels them from the 5th seed to the 3rd seed. In the playoffs, Jimmy did Jimmy things, leading the Sixers to their deepest playoff push in the process era, taking the Raptors all the way to Game 7, and with Jimmy hitting the biggest shot of the series.
Butler ties it up.
For the Sixers, that is.
The corner for the win.
But surely Jimmy Butler have found a new home, right? That offseason, just like the Wolves the season prior, the Sixers would choose their young core over Jimmy, not offering him a full max contract, instead opting to pay Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. On July 6, 2019, for a 3rd year in a row, Jimmy Butler will find a new home. Butler will be signed and traded to the Miami Heat.
What was the most contributing factor to you as you solidified this decision to be here?
To tell you the truth, it's the culture that I hear about all the time. I need that in my life.
Butler in his first season would lead the Heat all the way to the NBA Finals, albeit losing to a familiar foe. The next offseason would see the Heat extend Butler to a 4-year, $184 million deal. Jimmy during this stretch would carry the Heat to some of the greatest single-season achievements, yet seemingly always just coming up a bit short of the ultimate goal. At last, as Butler nears the end of his deal, tension again rises between Jimmy and now the Heat GM, Pat Riley. Like how Jimmy was originally the beneficiary of a Pat Riley beef that paired him with Dwayne Wade, this time it will be him on the receiving end. Throughout his career, Jimmy Butler has defied expectations, overachieving with every team he has been on. And yet, with every stop, the story seems to always end the same. But there are moments with every team that made you feel certain that he has found a home. But ultimately, these moments are just glimpses of what could have been. Like the young clashing with the old, like Tom Thibodeau chasing the echoes of the past, like Pat Riley standing his ground, unwavering. Are these the acts of stubbornness? Perhaps. But beneath the stubbornness masks a search for a sense of belonging. You may find it, it may come, it may go. And for Jimmy, the search continues. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. This is actually my 10th video on this channel. I remember when I first started this channel, I told my girlfriend that I would make 10 videos. And if I've gotten over 100 subscribers by then, I would keep going. So we've surpassed that goal, thankfully. And hopefully we can keep growing. Thank you so much for watching again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.